And hello again, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Test Flight in the F-86 Sabre. And I've just taken off on my guns and rocket employment mission. The first mission where I'm going to employ these types of weapons. 2 is forming up on my wing as we speak, and I'm en route to the range, which is right out there in front of me right now. Okay, so now the key is going to be to start figuring out how these controls work on the armor control panel. But before I do that, let me go ahead and go retract on my inlet screen. Let me pull up the checklist, in fact, and just make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, gear up, flaps up, then hold, NIS retract, horizontal tail trim, level off, accelerate, oxygen as required. Okay, good deal. So I'll continue the climb here. I'll pull the throttle back just a touch, just to maintain a reasonable airspeed, and I'll come out here and orbit over the range. But okay, let's go ahead and start having a look down here. So, okay, main switch. I need to go ahead and go to sight, camera, and radar. There is about a 5 to 15 minute warm-up on the A4 sight. I'm going to assume that's not modeled, and in either case, that's something that I would get. I don't know, I might just throw that in there during my, in my like after takeoff cleanup portion of the checklist, just to get that on and warmed up, but I believe it'll work in either case. Okay, gun heater. This switch is only going to be needed if the outside air temperature is below 35 degrees. I'm going to be staying at low altitude for this mission, so I'm going to leave the gun heater off. Okay, coming down. This is rockets release selection cover, so I'm going to have, looks like 3 settings. I might need to get a, let me try a different angle on this. Okay, there we go. Auto. Okay, 3 positions, auto. I believe that's going to be auto, off, and single. That's what I'm expecting. I believe those were the 3 different options that I had that were called out in the manual. So I'm going to take it that the top position is single, the center position is off, and the bottom position is obviously auto. Okay, I'll get back to that one in just a second. We'll test all 3 positions just to see how that works and see if that does scope out to be accurate. Okay, next up we have, okay, rockets, jet. Okay, I don't want to jettison these. Let me see, right now it's set to off. Okay, rockets, jet ready. So what would I need to do now to jettison these rockets? Possibly the jettison button. That's going to be my guess. This switch enables it. The jettison button does it. I'll test that and verify that. Okay, fuel's delayed, not applicable to what we have. Armed nose and tail, that's only applicable to bombs. Demolition bombs, okay, I'll leave that off. It's not applicable. Auto release, manual release is also not going to be applicable to the rocket or gun delivery. Okay, sight filament, I'm on a primary filament, so unless that burns out for some reason, which I highly doubt will do, I'll leave it. Okay, this knob is for wind correction for bombing. Okay, it has a rocket gun setting. We're going to rotate that all the way around to the bottom and leave that in that position for rockets and guns, like I'm doing on this one. Okay, okay, high-low. This is going to be concerning the closure speed in relation to the aircraft, and that's for air-to-air gunnery. So I don't believe high-low is going to matter for air-to-ground deliveries at all, actually. I'm going to leave that as is, or I'm going to leave it in the low setting. I don't think that's going to matter. I'm sure that's not going to matter. Okay, then gun, rocket, and bomb. And this is going to strictly control the A4 sight. And I'll leave it in the gun position because I'll do some strafing first. Okay. Good deal. Okay, 60. Okay, this reticle with the wingspan adjustment set to 60. I read that this is going to give me a 100 mil reticule. So center dot is at 0 mils. The bottom is at 50 mils. Okay, so yeah, we'll see how this works. And the key here will be to find a setting or find the mil setting that I want for the different ranges that I come up with for for strafing. So I'll probably go for like a 4,000, 4,000, 8,000, 12,000 type strafe. That might be a little bit too long range for this gun, now that I think about it, but yeah, something along those lines. Maybe like 3,000, 5,000, 8,000. And just have like standard settings for me set up there. And let me see, for both of these, I'm going to be leaving the reticle caged because I don't need it to be free floating. I just need a fixed indication on the sight to give me somewhere to aim. It's not going to do any kind of a computation on the ground for me like you would see in an A10 or anything with like a computing gun sight. This one only does the computation based on, I don't know, I guess if a person was really, really clever, they could manually adjust the range. Because, I mean, the radar, even if it does it in the game, it's not designed to give ground ranging information. It's designed for aircraft, and it's not really going to do much for you in relation to the ground, or it shouldn't do much for you in relation to the ground, I wouldn't think. But I know I'm going to be at low level, so in either case, I'm going to set this down to the minimum range just so I don't get ground clutter up here on the... And this little thing will flicker. You've probably seen it on some of the other videos when I'm down at low level or approach or taking off, that this thing flickers at low level, and I want that off so it's not a distraction. Okay, the rest of the sight, I believe that's the setup. I've got this that'll dim and brighten the reticule. That's fine as is. Okay, so 60, 100 mils. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with this. Okay, then this switch. Okay, all guns. Let me go to guns on my selector dial. Lights on. Okay. Okay, this doesn't appear to affect the lights. I'll tell you what, for my first pass, I'll make this just a test pass of this switch. I'll leave it in off and see if it actually does anything. Even if it doesn't do anything, then, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's still an open beta, and, you know, whatever this is supposed to do, maybe it'll do it at a later time. Okay, but in either case, okay, let's do some strafing. I have some strafe targets out here. So let me go ahead and dive. Okay, I'm at about 300 knots. So to avoid getting too fast, well, actually no, it's a fast jet. There's no reason not to go fast in this aircraft, so let me push it on up, and I'll only extend the speed brakes if I really legitimately do start to get too fast. Okay, so 0.8 Mach, 0.85. I'll make about 0.9 Mach about as fast as I want to get, and then pull the throttle back in a little bit. And now I'll pull in the speed brake just to slow her down some. Okay, so coming up here on these strafe targets, and I'll do these, I'll start out with just some low-angle strafes. Okay, and this is just a test run. Okay, this should work with this setup. I've got that in guns, I've got my sight selector to gun, I've got my reticle up, so I've got a good... I'll just use the center of the reticle, see what a 0 mil setting does for me at about a 4,000 foot slant range. And 4,000 feet is right about there. That little connex that I have set up there is right at 4,000 feet. I threw that in there just to give me a guide on this mission. Okay, coming in. Just set the reticle just short of the target. Okay, fire. Okay, that does inhibit release. Either that or something isn't set up down here. So let me go ahead and go to all guns. I'll just come around, set up on this little racetrack pattern, and do this until we really figure out how to employ the gun. Okay, so this might be another one where I cut out parts of it. I do like to fly the entire mission, but yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of just thinking during this video, so rather than try to come up with something to talk about during the entire racetrack pattern, yeah, I'll just be back once I'm set up on this second run. So see you in a sec. Okay, so coming around one more time, low angle strafe, 4,000 foot slant range, 0 mils, setting to all guns. I'm in guns, and I am in guns on my sight selector dial as well. Okay, so rolling in, I'll take this left-hand target, or at least that's my theory anyway, until I can really figure out the roll-in on this aircraft. Okay, and about 6,000. Okay, just went 0 mils. Let me dial that in. Okay, short burst. Okay, that seems actually very reasonable for 4,000 feet and in. That was right down the line, right there on 0 mils. Okay, so I've got 4,000 feet figured out. Let me step back to. Let me go for about twice that range. Let me go for 8,000 feet, and then I can sort of extrapolate different settings based on what I really get nailed in at 8,000 feet. So the foul line is at 2,000. This is 3,000, 4,000. So I want to be actually right there between those two bombing circles. Will be about 8,000 feet slant range at least. Okay, so coming around again, low angle strafe, 8,000 foot slant range. I'm going to try for about a 25 mil setting. So right there, just between these two markers. The bottom one is at 50 mils, the middle one is at 0 mils. Okay, so let me get established on the target. Okay, I'm picking up my circles now. Okay, let me really get established here. I'll go for this one since it's the one that I'm aligned on. Okay, fire. I was nowhere near the target, but okay, I think I'm going to go for a slightly lower mil setting, maybe 8,000 feet. That seemed to be right around the. It's kind of hard to tell. I think it was a little bit lower. Those rounds were such a low muzzle velocity on these weapons, lower than, well, not necessarily lower than what I'm used to. The muzzle velocity is actually not that bad, but okay, I'm going to go for about 50 mils on this pass. So I'll be right back. Okay, coming around once again, low angle strafe, going for about an 8,000 foot slant range. I'll try to make this a little bit smoother. I had a lot of trouble tracking last time around. Okay, I'm going to go for about 50 mils, so the bottom of the reticle. Okay, just need to bump it over just a touch. Okay, it looks good. Let's open up. Short burst. Okay, so I think my initial inclination was correct. It's kind of hard. There's a lot of trial and error in this, but yeah, I'm thinking I was right the first time. I think about 25 mils is going to be good for, or even less, in fact. And it's kind of tricky to tell sometimes because G-loading does affect this somewhat. If you're pushing over as you're firing, that can affect where they fall in relation to where you think you had your reticle. Also, if you're pulling G's, or even if you're moving the aircraft around at all, and you're in anything other than just a steady 1G dive, you can. It's just hard to tell, as I'm sure you can see just then. But okay, I'll be back once I'm established on the next roll-in. I'll go for a 25 mil setting. Okay, so rolling in one more time, 25 mils, 8,000 feet. And go for this left one out of the right-hand group. Okay, right about there. Okay, 10,000, 8,000. And see what I mean? I was pushing over as I did that, so I mean those are on target, but it's this is a lot like firing a. It's a lot like firing a small arms weapon. Trigger control actually does come into play here. So what I did there was I jerked the stick as I pulled the trigger. It's a surefire way to miss with a 9mm or M16 or whatever, but it's also a surefire way to miss in a F-86 apparently. So squeeze the trigger, don't jerk the stick while you do it like I did there. But I think I have that mil setting nailed in now. I'm pretty sure 25 is going to do it. I'll verify that on 2 more passes, and I'll move on to rockets. And I need to do that quick because I am quickly burning fuel down here at low altitude. Okay, rolling in one more time. Go for the left-hand group. I'll go for the second one in the left-hand group. Starting to get, well, I'll speak too soon. I was starting to get the hang of the rollout. Okay, so I'm bringing it on up. Just let it track gently on up. Oh, come on. Well, completely botched that one, but let me go for this. Okay, that'll work. And you really want to avoid firing too close. Did you see the ricochets? as they were coming up at me as I was approaching that target. That time I was actually way too close to be firing a gun, because ricochet and the effects of the target that you hit on the ground, you know, explosions or secondary fragmentation off of what you hit, can and will damage your aircraft. Well, not necessarily in the sim. It is something that I wish was modeled, but for, I guess, mercy's sake is not, or mercy on our sake, or for our sake is not. But yeah, fragmentation, ricochet, all those things are huge, huge, huge considerations when it comes to bombing. And, you know, for example, with the gun's delivery, you know, anything less than, say, 4,000 feet slant range like I was doing on that first pass, or with a bomb, especially a 500-pound bomb like we're going to employ, or rockets like we're going to employ here in a minute, you just don't want to overfly these things at all. You know, all the way up to like 4,000 feet after they detonate. So you want to release them from as long a range as possible, and definitely don't overfly them for about 30 seconds after they detonate. Okay, so one more roll in. Slightly higher dive angle, but the slant range will be the same, so therefore the mill setting should be the same. I'm going to sit up on that same target, so I just want to place the reticle just short of the target and let it walk up as I walk up the target, and then fire as I get to the 25 mil setting. Okay, coming up on the distance, let me go ahead and fire. Okay, so I think I can tell, not quite the very middle, but I mean, just right up there. So that'd be about a 15 mil. Yeah, about 15 mil. So I can pretty much extrapolate settings anywhere from 4,000 to 8,000, just right there, just below the pipper. And I think in general, you know, if you spray enough rounds in there, like I seem to be doing on these runs, get it anywhere right in there, just below the pipper from moderate range like I was firing, and yeah, you'll be fine. You'll get some good effects out of that. So I think that's good enough for now on the gun. Was there anything else that I wanted to verify? Can I fire the guns? That's my timer saying that I'm at about 17 minutes. I'm going to shut that off because I still have 2 or 3 minutes because I didn't record audio for all this. I wonder if the gun will fire when I have rocket selected. So let's do this as a quick test. I'll just roll in on the circle. I know it's not going to matter now that I think about it, because that only affects the... yeah, that only affects the sight itself and doesn't affect the gun. Okay, so this switch only affects the sight, and I'm going to get the guns firing no matter what the setting is. Okay, that works. But folks, as always seems to happen, I forgot all about the timer and just kept going. So I have to re-record the outro and the intro for the next video. But oh well, I learned a lot about the gun during this video, and I went back to the manual afterwards and was able to confirm all of my findings from the trial and error portion of this. So I'm on the right track, and an On the Range series is going to follow immediately after this with documentation of all of my conclusions, a lot more organized than I was here, so stay tuned for that, and I will see you with rockets delivery in the next video. Thanks again.